With season 4 of The Boys coming to a close, I thought I'd rank and explain the 7 from the comics. As far as the 7 goes, in the show compared to the comics, there's a few differences. Now, in the show, you'll actually see every member of the 7 in combat in one way or another. But in the comics, almost every single superhero really has no clue what they're doing. And in the comics, the founding members of the 7 have received the highest exposure to Compound V, which makes the original 7 pretty much the strongest soups in the series. And I think we can get to the ranking now, of every member of the 7 from the comics ranked weakest to strongest. Before we begin though, I'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. Start this list off at weakest, I'm putting Starlight. So Starlight, also known as Annie January, has the power of light projection. And this power gives her the ability to project and emanate a blinding light. The only real ability she can do with this is just blind people, which she does have the ability to blind soups, but that's as far as her power goes. And unlike the show, in the comics it literally says nothing about her having any sort of super strength. And outside of light projection, she also has the ability to fly pretty easily, and she has really good superhuman hearing. Unlike most of the soups in the comics though, she is skilled in hand-to-hand combat. But against any other member of the 7, it's probably not gonna do anything. As far as her backstory goes, she was raised by foster parents and attended several superhero pageants as a child. Her worth as a child really depended on how she did in these pageants and how well she performed. After this, she joins the Young Americans, and then after she's in the Young Americans for a while, she gets an offer to join the 7 after Lamplighter quote-unquote dies. Right after she joins the 7 though, she gets in a relationship with Huey, in which neither of them know that one is a soup and one is trying to kill all soups pretty much. And by the end of the series, even though they have some ups and downs, Huey and Starlight do end up together. And as far as using her powers goes, we really only see her blind A-Train one time, and that's about it. And with most of the soups in the comics, we don't even get to see most of them in combat, which makes it really hard to make a list like this. So there's a lot of speculation that has to go into this ranking. But at number 8, I have Jack from Jupiter. So Jack has superhuman strength, but it isn't to the degree of most of the other members of the 7. And outside of superhuman strength, he has flight and he has invulnerability. But what's interesting about his invulnerability is by saying the word Carpo, he has this red force field that surrounds his body and grants him basically superhuman invulnerability. But there are several downsides to this ability. First off, he has to actually say the word to become invulnerable. And even worse, there's actually a time limit to this invulnerability. So after a certain period of time, the shield actually just runs out. And also, even using this ability is super painful to him. Jack has actually described the pain as being electrocuted with 10,000 volts up his rear. And if he's not in this state, he actually has human durability. And that's why I specifically put him in this spot, because he could be taken down with any sort of normal weapon by a human. And as far as his history goes, he was created by Vought America along with the rest of the 7. And the actual corporation really doesn't care about him, because Jack is just so weak. And in the comics, his personality is mainly this depraved sexual behavior. And he constantly gets blackmailed by Butcher because of this behavior. And Jack actually acts out and he kills Butcher's dog. But then to get back at him, Butcher literally stabs him to death, which proves my point of just how easy it is to take him down, as long as you can get his mouth shut, I guess. But there really isn't any more to say about him, so we'll move on. At number 7, we have A-Train. So A-Train's power is superhuman speed, and we know he's fast, but the reason why I didn't put him above Mr. Marathon is because Mr. Marathon is a original member of the 7, which means he's naturally just going to be more powerful with his speed, because A-Train was recruited after Mr. Marathon is gone. But outside that speed, he also has an accelerated body, and this ability allows him to heal and recover faster with increased strength, speed, and reflexes, as well as accelerated perception. I put him above Starlight because even though Starlight blinded him, I don't think Starlight actually has any real way to damage him outside of blinding him. And then, as far as beating Jack from Jupiter goes, Jack just does not have that durability at all times, so A-Train could just hit him with a super strong punch and take him down. But he can't be any higher on this list because the people above him were manufactured to be the strongest superhero group. I guess Jack being the exception in power. And as far as his history goes, he joins the Seven, replacing Mr. Marathon as this super arrogant young guy that joins the team. And I also forgot to mention he originally comes from the Teenage Kicks. And the first time we see him in the comic is when he accidentally kills Huey's girlfriend Robin, which then causes Huey to join the boys, and that pretty much sparks the whole entire series from that point on. After he joins the Seven though, he attempts multiple times to SA Starlight. In the comic, he really doesn't have any more depth than this, and he eventually gets captured by Butcher and killed by Huey. I think the main cast of the boys in the comics, such as Huey and Mother's Milk, have really good character development in the comics, but as far as the villains go, they're very one note as compared to the show. Speaking of one note, at number 6 we have Lamplighter. Lamplighter's main ability is pyrokinesis, and he possesses a torch that grants him the ability to harness fire and blast flames in any direction. Along with the pyrokinesis, he has flight and superhuman durability. In the comic, he survives being struck by the wing of a plane in mid-flight. And as far as his powers go, we really don't see anything in the comics because this all happens before the comics take place. But his history, on the other hand, is a lot more interesting than his actual powers. He ends up killing Mallory's grandchildren, and he is given up by the rest of the Seven to prevent a full-scale war between the Seven and the CIA. After he's given to the boys, he gets beaten to near death, and then he gets shot in the head by Mallory. In the comics, though, all the Supes can actually be revived with Compound V if they had it in their system previously. But even though they're resurrected, they literally lose any form of higher brain function, and for the rest of the series, he specifically gets confined to a basement room at the Seven's base. And by the end of the story, he's found and taken away by the CIA. And at number 5, we have Mr. Marathon. And we all know Mr. Marathon's powers, literally the same as A-Train's, but more powerful. So I'm just gonna get right into the history here. The main time we see Mr. Marathon in the story is on the crashing plane. And as he's escaping the plane, he's riding on Homelander's back. And as Homelander is trying to slow the plane with him on his back, he accidentally gets decapitated. And then he just gets replaced by A-Train, who is another speedster. This is all we really have on him because all these events take place before the series starts. So at number 4, we have the Deep. The powers we've actually seen from the Deep in the comics only are superhuman strength, superhuman durability, and flight. We know he does have aquatic abilities, but we have no idea what kinds he does have. We kind of just see him appear out of the water in one page of the comics, and that's about it. As far as his strength goes, though, he can punch through the window of an airplane, and he can carry multiple grown men at the same time. We know he's not stronger than Butcher though, but Butcher is one of the strongest people in the whole entire comic book series. Because him and the other boys are all injected with Compound V early on. And it's stated in the comics that this Compound V that they get injected with makes him stronger than every 4 out of 5 Supes. But the Deep is still really strong. And as far as durability goes, he can withstand high caliber bullets, falls from orbital height, exposure to extreme temperature and pressure, and he can also withstand tremendous impact forces. He literally gets hit by a full-speed airliner during the failed rescue mission, and he only sustains a nosebleed from this, which is very impressive. While his abilities seem really simple, he's just straight up more powerful than most of the other people on this list. And as far as his history goes, in the Seven, he's actually one of the most mature people in the whole group. That being said, he's mature as far as the Seven goes, so he still ends up SAing Starlight along with multiple other people in the Seven. But besides Starlight, he is the only other person to actually survive the Seven. By the end of the series, he just dips out along with Starlight. He doesn't really get much else as personality goes, though, in the series. This is all we know about him. And at number 3, we have Queen Maeve. So, Queen Maeve also only has superhuman strength, superhuman durability, and flight. And as far as her strength goes, she is literally stronger than every other person in the series besides Homelander and Black Noir. And then as far as her durability goes, she can withstand high caliber bullets and tremendous impact forces without sustaining injury. She also withstands Homelander's sonic screams. but we really don't see her get into any action in the comics. But I can go a little bit more in depth on her history here. So, during Queen Maeve's first years on the team, she kind of just sticks with the group even though she's aware of how corrupt it is. But then the plane rescue incident happens and she becomes deeply traumatized and turns into a nihilistic alcoholic. For almost all the comics, she's literally staring out a window drinking martinis. But she is the only character in the comic that even shows a little bit of sympathy for Starlight that is in the Seven. She also actually ends up bugging the Seven's headquarters for the boys because she just wants to get at them. But unfortunately, she ends up getting decapitated at the end of the series by Homelander protecting Starlight. But the sacrifice does give Starlight enough time to escape. And speaking of Homelander, at number 2 on this list, we have Homelander. So Homelander actually has a ton of superpowers even compared to the show. I'm just gonna list them now. He has superhuman strength, superhuman durability, superhuman stamina, superhuman speed, regenerative healing factor, longevity, resurrection, heat vision, x-ray vision, superhuman hearing, and superhuman smell. Also, superhuman voice and flight. He basically has the powers of Superman, so I'm not gonna really go in depth on all his abilities, because even without most of them, we know he is just stronger and more durable than every other character on this list besides Black Noir, and that reason will be explained after I go through the history of Homelander. So, Homelander was basically just experimented on by Vought America with Compound V, and he was stuck in a silo for 18 years. But to the public, his origin was that he crash landed on Earth and he was found as a little baby. After this, at least to the public, he was known as the hero of America, pretty much. But when we get to the Boys series, he's still the leader, but when he is fighting the group of the Boys and the CIA, they're pretty much at a standstill because they know that it would be mutual destruction, as they call it. So he really doesn't get to do anything as far as combat goes until the end of the series, which at the end of the series, he gets all the supes together to take over the United States. He personally kills Victor Newman, and when he comes face to face with Butcher at the end, he doesn't remember committing photograph evidence, in which it's revealed that Noir was actually a clone of Homelander the whole time. And Homelander, being angered at this, ends up fighting Noir and losing. The whole reason he loses this fight, though, is because Noir was literally meant to kill Homelander if things went bad. And obviously, I skipped a lot of more political parts of the story as far as Homelander goes, but you should read the comics if you want to know more about it. And although vulgar, I think the comics actually do characters like Huey way better justice than the show does. So although there's plenty of problematic things in the comics, I'd still recommend it if you can get past all that. And there's genuinely a pretty solid story if you can get past that. But anyways, at number 1, we have Black Noir. So Black Noir literally just has the same exact abilities as Homelander because he basically is Homelander. But I'm just gonna go straight into his history. So Black Noir was a direct clone of Homelander created by Vought as a failsafe to kill Homelander if he ever overstepped his boundaries. And Homelander really didn't do that many terrible things throughout the series, and that made Black Noir kind of psychotic. So Black Noir orchestrated this whole entire descent into villainy by framing Homelander for various crimes that Homelander did not commit. This does work, and this does end up actually leading Homelander to try to overthrow the United States government. And then Black Noir reveals himself, and obviously, like I stated earlier, he wins the fight against Homelander. And although winning, he does actually receive very heavy damage in this battle. He gets disemboweled among other things, and then the military starts to intervene and starts attacking him also. And then Billy also intervenes, and he cracks open his skull with a crowbar and crushes his brain, finally killing him once and for all. Before he is revealed to be a Homelander clone, he's very silent and stoic the whole time before that. While I don't think this twist would work for the show, I think it is fine for the comics. And I know many people have a bad look on the comics, but I think it's just different from the show. I don't think at this point, especially after season 4, the show and the comics are even comparable, almost. And I think they're both great in their own ways, honestly. But that's all I have for ranking the 7 in the comics. And give me more ideas for different shows or different ideas about talking about the boys, even though the season is finally over. But that's really all I have to say, so thanks for watching.